Good evening and welcome. 6:15 p.m. across Cameroon. You're watching the news on Canal, the international broadcasting live from Douala. Stay with us for a sneak peek at tonight's top stories. Here's Kejang Henry Atembe with the headlines.
After more than 5 months in captivity, Rolaniwane, the sub-prefect of Idabatu, was finally freed on March 17, 2025 and handed over to the Cameroon military. Kidnapped on October 1, 2024, Ewane Roland was rescued by the Rapid Intervention Battalion. While initial images show him in good health, though thinner, no official details have emerged about the circumstances surrounding his release. Meanwhile, his fellow captive Ismail Etongo remains unaccounted for. The Trump administration is preparing to announce a new travel ban that could affect citizens from 43 countries, including Cameroon. The proposed restrictions aimed at boosting national security are broader than previous bans and classified countries into 3 categories. Cameroon is placed on the yellow list with 60 days to address U.S. concerns of its stricter travel limitations. Meanwhile, a new memorandum from northern Cameroon's elite has sparked debate, with some seeing it as a political move tied to the region's electoral influence. As the far north remains the country's poorest, the voting ballot has become a key tool for political leverage, fueling disagreements over the motivations behind the document. That was a summary of tonight's top stories. Stay tuned for full development in a moment with Intarike Divine Ramsey Jr.
Thanks once again for your company, and we kickstart this edition with this good news that's been grabbing the headlines since last night. And that's because after 6 months of nerve-wracking uncertainty, the sub-prefect for Idabatu in the southwest region has been freed from the hands of his captors. The liberation followed desperate pleas, shocking ransom demands, and what some have described rather as diplomatic talks of war. Here's Ines Ondo Ambala reporting.
It is a happy end of a kidnapping story which lasted 6 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days. Armed pirates from the Nigerian separatist groups invaded the Idabatu subdivision, created panic through sporadic gunshot, stormed the residence of the divisional officer, and adopted him. Today, Ewane Roland has regained freedom. This marks the end of uncertainty, suspense on whether or not the Dio was still alive. The population of Idabatu, family members of Ewane Roland, and government can now rejoice. He was tortured, maltreated while in captivity. The trauma is real, but the good news is that Ewane Roland is still alive. The Dio of Idabatu, Ewane Roland, was freed on Monday, March 17, 2025, during an operation conducted by Cameroon Armed Forces led by the Rapid Intervention Battalion with the collaboration of the Nigerian security forces at the Cameroon-Nigeria border. The Cameroon team, headed by the B Delta Commander Colonel Ndikum Azee, took the Dio immediately after its release to the B Health Center in Bakassi for medical checkup. While the population are still expecting that the Idabatu Council staff, Etongo Ismail, been free, Ewane Roland has been taken to Yaoundé.
Been received in audience by both the Prime Minister as well as the Minister of Territorial Administration. Now, Hyacinth Chia has been keeping the tabs. He was actually at the joy for us. Hyacinth.
Good evening and welcome to the Ministry of Territorial Administration, where the release due of a Dabatu has just been received here by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, alongside the Governor of the Southwest Region and the SGO of Nzian Division. Released yesterday, Ewane Rulan took off from the Southwest Region today and landed here at about 3 p.m., where he was received, first of all, by the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Joseph John Gute, where they had some backdoor discussions for about 30 minutes before he headed here to the Ministry of Territorial Administration to meet the Minat boss, where the Minat boss has just transmitted the encouragement of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, to the released captive and other family members, as well as friends and other relatives visiting the family residence to celebrate, of course, the miraculous release of heading back home, where a host of family members and friends are to and touch the civil administrator after the release, who has been in captivity, like we indicated, for more than 5 months since October 1st, 2024. From the Ministry of Territorial Administration, Hyson Cha and Jean-Bernard Tani. Back to you in the studio.
And so on that October 1, and thank you once again, Hyacinth Chia. On October 1, 2024, Sub-Prefect Ewane was abducted by unidentified gunmen and whisked off towards the border with Nigeria. And as the weeks and the months crawled by, the kidnappers' ransom demands continued, as well as Yamaha generators. Here's Kejan Henry now with a back pedal of Sub-Prefect Ewane's ordeals.
The long-awaited release of Ewane Rulan, Divisional Officer for Idabatu in Cameroon's Southwest Region, has reignited concerns over cross-border insecurity between Cameroon and Nigeria. His abduction on October 1, 2024, by unidentified gunmen underscored the vulnerability of government officials operating in the remote, lawless areas of the Bakassi Peninsula, a region notorious for piracy, separatist activities, and armed criminal networks. The assailants stormed Ewane Rulan's residence at around 2:15 a.m., seizing him and transporting him through the maritime waterways of the Bakassi Peninsula into Nigeria. The news of his abduction spread rapidly on social media, prompting security and intelligence services to launch efforts to secure his release. However, the kidnappers had already smuggled him across the border, making immediate rescue efforts difficult. Located on Cameroon's maritime border with Nigeria, Idabatu is part of the oil-rich and strategically sensitive Bakassi Peninsula. The region has long been a hotspot for security threats, including armed separatists from Cameroon's Anglophone crisis, Nigerian militant groups, and organized crime syndicates that thrive on kidnappings for ransom. Despite the 2008 handover of Bakassi from Nigeria to Cameroon, the area remains unstable, with both legal and illegal activities flourishing in its vast waterways and dense mangroves. Following his abduction, the kidnappers released videos showing Ewane Rulan in distress, bound and subjected to torture. As negotiations unfolded, reports surfaced that a ransom was demanded for his release. This amounted to more than 1.2 billion CFA francs and other material demands. Meanwhile, the government, in coordination with Nigerian authorities, engaged in diplomatic and intelligence efforts to secure his freedom. While officials assured the public that Ewane Rulan would be freed, his family actually endured months of anxiety and uncertainty about his fate. After months in captivity, Ewane Rulan was finally released. However, questions remain: who facilitated the negotiations? Was a ransom paid? If so, how much? While his return brings relief, it is also highlighting the persistent insecurity along the Cameroon-Nigerian border and the urgent need for stronger security measures to prevent future incidents.
Some very pertinent questions being asked by Kejang Henry at the tail end of that report. We'll definitely be coming up with this as it continues evolving. Now let's take you on to something else, and somewhere else. We're going up to the Northwest region to meet a young lady called Carol. Well, she is currently the target of growing outrage after she secretly aborted her twins. The lifeless remains were initially discovered and buried, but now the villagers from Bim have exhumed the remains for what they call a proper burial.
After aborting an over 5-month pregnancy of a set of twin babies, a young woman has been publicly put to shame in Bim village in Kum subdivision of the Northwest region. Carol, over the weekend, made away with the babies in the very early hours of the day in a nearby bush before her sister could notice her absence. After questioning, she confessed to the family of the abortion, while a man who discovered the lifeless fetuses buried them. But after a second thought, the village decided on the exhumation to give the innocent babies a proper burial. Pressured by some strokes of the cane, Carol, who is already mother of one, lamented that she has not been attending prenatal clinic sessions. She, however, begged for forgiveness, while elderly women of Bim village jeered at her for the abominable act, which they considered a disgrace to womanhood.
And now, if you're a Cameroonian national and you intend to travel to America or the United States of America in the near future, then this should be of concern to you. And that's because the U.S. government might soon prescribe tougher visa restrictions for nationals from Cameroon. Authorities in Washington have warned that if within the next 60 days the government of Cameroon fails to improve and boost its security for identification papers, it might end up banning any travels to the U.S. from Cameroon. Here's Kejang Henry at Tembe.
In a move that could affect thousands of Cameroonians, the U.S. government has placed Cameroon on its travel watch list, giving the country just 60 days to improve its security and identification practices. Failure to comply could lead to visa restrictions for its citizens, with potentially serious consequences for students, business people, and families with ties to the U.S. The decision comes as part of a broader U.S. initiative to tighten travel security across the globe. Cameroon now finds itself in the yellow category alongside 42 other nations under scrutiny by the U.S. State Department and other agencies. The country must provide detailed passenger data, bolster passport security, and crack down on the alleged sale of citizenship to nationals from banned countries. While Washington has identity document system, even as the government pushes forward with digital reforms, from educational exchanges to family reunifications, with the clock ticking down, all eyes and face the consequences.
And very briefly in politics, Kavae Yege Jibril has been re-elected 137. The 85-year-old MP from the Mayo Sava division, who has held the position since 1992, was the sole candidate for the role. His re-election has remained unchanged. And that's how we call it quits on this edition of the 6:15 p.m. news on Canal International. Remember, we're broadcasting from Douala. Now, if you're a fan of Cameroon's national football team, the Indomitable Lions, don't you go away. There's a big surprise for you right after us. At 1950, more news in French with Alain Ghislain Kanga. Stay safe. See you tomorrow and goodbye.